And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace, still down here in absolutely beautiful Dallas. I mean, the weather now is just absolutely gorgeous. Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre are back there in the home headquarters of the Steve Deace Show there in Des Moines, Iowa, where it's also very nice for this time of year as well. We're brought to you by our friends over at First Cup Coffee Company. They're the Christian-owned Patriot Coffee Company that stands for the same core values of faith, family, and freedom that you do. But don't just get their coffee for that reason. In fact, don't get it for that reason at all. Get it because it's great coffee. All right, we promote a meritocracy even within our own ranks here. Get it because it's great coffee, and then also because it supports and shares your values as well. There's a flavor for every freedom-loving American, shipped within days of being roasted. They put the roast date right there on every bag. Again, get a discount, too, when you use the promo code DACE at firstcup.com. Promo code DACE at firstcup.com. So, very productive day. And really this entire week. Lots of discussions and meetings. A massive crowd yesterday, gentlemen, at NRB. Billy Hallowell, our old buddy, told me last year they had 1,200 attendees for NRB. This year it was over 5,000. And the Gaylord here in Dallas is not the same size as the one in Nashville, and it struggled to hold that many people. But do you have any theories or hypotheses for that level? That's 300 some odd percent growth from year to year. And last year was the election year, right? So then again, maybe that's why everybody was hiding. Hey, I don't want to get out and get arrested. I don't know. All right. But any theories as to that 1 year massive growth over at the National Religious Broadcasters Conference?
No, I mean, I've been there a couple of times, but it's been nigh on a decade ago when it was still in Nashville. And I wasn't privy to what the attendance numbers were back then. But that's odd to have nearly a, 3,000 or not 3,000, 3 times increase in attendance. Mm-hmm. That is very odd.
Well, I think you hit on it. I mean, I love it when we are out in public and get a chance to meet the people. It's humbling, love them. But Steve, you open the door for this. I'm just going to kick it open now. It's easy now. It was harder, more of a target on our back. I think that's something it's a tell, and we should deal with that. We need to live a far more dangerous faith and welcome it when it's hard as well.
Here is why I am encouraged by this. One of the things, and guys, I did 10 hours of interviews and appearances yesterday, so I'm going to be gentle with my voice to make sure I don't lose it here in the middle of the show.
You're great at that, being gentle with your voice. You excel at that.
People say that about me often. Gentle and Steve go often, in fact, yes. And well, if you talk to my daughters, they would say that. Maybe no other persons that know me on planet Earth would say that. But one of the themes that I mentioned in several interviews I did yesterday is, when we had the first American Revolution, we had awakenings that led the way. The church led the way. And then what happened in the culture, in the civic realm, came after that. We're having a mini American Revolution, I think, right now, frankly. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this. You probably had it up on your screens there, but, I'm sitting here in Pat Gray's studio, and the sound isn't on, but just the visual of every cable news channel that Pat has on here in his studio, and they're all showing the first cabinet meeting under President Trump opening with prayer. And the visual of that is so striking compared to what we have seen really for much of our lifetimes, Republican or Democrat, in these situations. So I think we're seeing a second mini American Revolution right now. But in this case, the civic realm and the culture is out ahead of the church. And the point that I made in several appearances yesterday is that ain't going to work.
Correct.
I mean, that's not going to be a movement. That's going to be a moment. If we're going to have a movement, we might have a French Revolution tantrum. Okay, that, people are just fed up, and that's a moment, but that's not a movement. Okay, and if we want to have a movement, you're going to need the only transcendent institution God ever gave to human beings, the church. Has got to get caught up to what's happening elsewhere in the culture. And maybe yesterday or this week and the great growth in that event, maybe that's a sign that that slumbering giant, which is frankly drugged itself to sleep. It put itself to sleep voluntarily. Maybe it's at least a little starting to wake up. I will tell you, we're having very good conversations about Nefarious, Nefarious 2, Nefarious Harder, which I keep kidding is going to be the title. It's not going to be the title. Nefarious Harder. It made me laugh. I don't know if anybody else finds it funny. Nefarious Harder.
Live or let nefarious.
Yes. You know, so got to have dinner the other night with Sean Patrick Flannery, our star, and get caught up with him and our creative team, and that was great. And here's how I can, and I mean, it's interesting. You know, we had to, my company, what you guys work for, we had to finance this movie the last time. This time, I have money people coming to me, and I'm kind of not used to that, actually. All right, you know, and so that's an interesting experience, but. Here's how I can also tell that we're making really good progress. Guys, I kid you not. I kid you not. Every night since I have been down here this week, I have been awakened at about 3 a.m. Every night. The first night was like a panic attack, and I had to get up, walk it off, pray it off. Just absolutely came out of nowhere. Looked at my watch. It was about 2:50, 2:55, 3 a.m. The second night, had to just get up and pee. Same exact time. Third night, had to get up and pee. Same exact time. Last night, my watch goes off. Somebody in the 616 area code is calling me at around 3 a.m. That has happened every single night. Every single night, I've been awakened in the middle of the night since I've been down here by right around the exact same time. And it appears it's game on. All right. The game is afoot with Lord Nefarious. So gird your loins. All right. Make sure you've got, in my case, make sure you've got a really good probiotic. All right. It's game on, guys. We're gonna do the dance with the devil one more time here. The game is already afoot, it appears. So every single night this week this has happened. Thoughts?
And wasp season isn't even here yet.
I know. There's nothing even to say to that. There's nothing even to say to that, man. It is what it is. It is what it is. All right, coming up on the show today, we're going to hear from the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz. He's going to be joining us next hour. You're also going to get some buy, sell, or hold coming your way at the bottom of this hour. But let's kick it off, as we always do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by the Gold Card.
We're going to be doing something else that's going to be very, very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes.
In the U.S. House, Republicans passed a budget yesterday evening, which keeps the Trump tax cuts, but it does add to the deficit over the next 10 years. The Senate has their own budget that reportedly does not contain Trump's tax cuts, so this fight has just begun. Another near aviation miss, this time at Chicago's Midway Airport.
I thought 2504 going around. 2504, roger that, coming maintain 3000.
What a great job from that Southwest Airlines pilot. Air traffic control audio revealed the Learjet that got on the Southwest flight's landing.
Jet 560, your instructions are to hold short of runway 31 center.
Uh-oh. I promise you'll never guess what your taxpayer money was being used for at the Central Intelligence Agency. If you've got little ears around, pause this, come back later, or send them out of the room. According to independent journalist Chris Rufo, he's received documentation that chat rooms were being hosted on government servers for government employees at the NSA and CIA, where those employees, some of them would talk, ostensibly during work hours, about their ecstasy after having their penises chopped off and replaced with a surgically created gash in their nether regions, which they call their vagina. These chat rooms and conversations were justified in the name of DEI. Kamala Harris, your thoughts?
You can smell it.
Yeah, DNI Tulsi Gabbard has already ordered the termination of all 100 intel officials involved in those seedy chat rooms. rooms. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. paused a multi-million-dollar contract from the Biden administration to create a new COVID-19 jab. Governor Augustus Gloop of Illinois says, quote, RFK Jr.'s views are dangerous, misguided, and deeply disturbing. Frankly, his policies will hurt people. Who will pick the cotton update? Here's Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal.
We can't let them deport the millions of families across this country. If you look at the food that's on your table, think about who picked it.
Maine State House Representative Laurel Libby was censured yesterday for speaking out in defense of women's spaces and protecting female athletics.
The member will be in violation of House Rule 401, Part 11. The member will not be able to cast a vote or speak on the floor until the member has come back into compliance with House Rule 401, Part 11.
CNN anchor Joseph Goebbels has a new book coming out titled Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. Here is Goebbels not that long ago.
I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
you are
to watch somebody on stage
that's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter.
Joy Reid is out at MSNBC.
What I was doing had value.
Learning Chinese today. Today's phrase is, nah, bruh.
不鲁赫.
And finally, former RFK Jr. vice presidential running mate Nicole Shanahan announced in a post on X yesterday she was recently baptized and now describes herself as a Jew for Jesus. Shanahan described the anguish in her life after a recent tragedy late last year and how the right people were in the right place at the right time to point her to Jesus. That's an incredible story. And that's what happened while we were away.
First of all, we all owe Nicole Shanahan an apology. All right. Talk about awful segues.
I tried to find something different, but I was running up against the clock.
That's an incredible story. You could just tell the last few months, man, something was going on. All right. Some synapse came on, flame on, something happened. Because, we've been talking about, hey, she's starting to grow on us. Because the woman was literally flirting with Druidism. Not even an exaggeration. So, I mean, the power of the gospel never ceases to amaze. What an incredible story that is. So, let's make sure we acknowledge that first. But, okay, now that is done, because that's the most important thing in Aaron's montage. I laughed out loud 3 times. That might be the funniest montage you've ever done. I mean, I spontaneously laughed out loud 3 times. The Kamala Harris, it smells. I laughed out loud at that. The who will pick the cotton update. Who will pick the cotton? Who will pick the cotton? That is so good. Oh my gosh. And then the knob, bro.
I know. Translated into Chinese.
Oh crap. I know, I'm sweating. I am literally sweating here. Holy crap. Oh my gosh. That was incredible. That was absolutely incredible. You can tell what happens. Aaron's got a day off because we had the Rush Limbaugh retrospective yesterday, which, by the way, the amount of reaction to that has been incredible. And a lot of great and kind words for David Limbaugh and what he granted us here at the Blaze yesterday. So clearly, Aaron came loaded for bear in today's montage. Brought to you by our friends over at Constitution Wealth. Attention investors, good news. A lot of us believe we have turned the tide in the battle for the soul of America. Trump's been elected and is beginning now the Herculean task of pushing back against the forces of wokeism. But many businesses are beginning to mothball now their DEI, CRT, and ESG programs and focus on serving customers, all customers, rather than just their own political interest. What about you? Have you joined the movement of Americans who are using their investments to hold companies accountable for their ethical behavior? If you'd like to join other patriotic citizens by aligning your investments with your conservative values, go to constitutionwealth.com/blaze for a free consultation. Constitution Wealth is a registered investment advisor. You should review Constitution Wealth's disclosures at constitutionwealth.com to understand their services and their fees, and that all investing involves risk, including the risk of loss. Now, this is a paid endorsement. I'm not a client client of the firm. constitutionwealth.com/blaze is where you want to go, or just scan the QR code right there on your screen if you are watching. We have talked about the political brilliance of what DOGE is doing. Just the that you have to, when I have done church events around the country, and one of the things I try to stress is that we're in a different era. All right, the principles don't change. The gospel's unchangeable. It's eternal. But the processes do, and the methods do, and you have to talk to the audience that you're trying to reach, not the audience that you prefer to have. Okay, and we're in a postmodern society, and that's what we are right now. We're in a post-truth culture, as Todd has said, a postmodern society. We're in an epistemological nuclear winter. We've used all that phraseology on our show right now. Okay, and in the last several years. So what ends up happening is like personal authenticity matters more than morality or the integrity of your truth. It shouldn't, because that's totally subjective. All right, but it does. And so now we're not going to be subjective as believers in response to this. We have to understand that the audience we're trying to reach is coming from that frame of mind. So we have to address that head on. For example, I will tell my opinion is in another era, what Mark Robinson was likely doing in his private life 15, 20 years ago, that's what would have disqualified him from being governor of North Carolina. We're not in that era right now. Right? We're in a morally subjective era. So what disqualified him from being governor of North Carolina is the fact that he thought he was going to run from it and hide from it. And the reality is, if he just would have come forward and said, hey, man, I was kind of a sleaze 20 years ago. And, a lot of us did things 20 years ago not proud of, and my service to the people of North Carolina as lieutenant governor, just owned it, been authentic about it, probably wouldn't have hurt him that much. That's good and bad, depending on your perspective, but it's where we are, right? And so because of that, you often have to make the emotional connection first. If you're a boomer or older, that's a total reversal of how American persuasion culture worked for really the entirety of the history of this country until this moment. You actually started first with a truth claim because everybody agreed there was objective truth. So you started with the best aspect of your objective truth claim, and then you closed it. You sealed it. You went for the close with the emotional appeal. In this era, that won't work. If you can't make an emotional appeal, you're never going to get heard. Your truth claim's never going to get heard. I mean, this is why I talk so much, take a drink. I was born to a 15-year-old mom. This is me reinforcing over and over again. And because a lot of what we call authenticity in a morally subjective culture is that you emotionally connected with me. You guys with me on this so far? Okay.
Sure.
Yep.
So if Mark Robinson had said, hey, man, you know what? Yeah, you bet, man. I was just a complete freak, back in the day. Weren't we all? We've all been there. I grew up, got married, went to church, right? Oh, yeah, that's my story, too. Emotional connection made. Now we move on to who's the best candidate. He never did that. Thought he could run from it. Thought he could hide it. All right. And that's not going to work because now you look inauthentic, meaning you lost the emotional connection. And so therefore, I'm not going to look at who might be the better gubernatorial candidate for my state. I'm just going to look at who I've made an emotional connection with, and it's not you. Now, what does that have to do with DOGE? Because DOGE is politically following the same process. What DOGE is doing, if you're a boomer or older, would have been considered a silly stunt and dismissed by every previous generation of American political observers and voters. Even, I know we're hearing large dollar amounts of stuff being cut, but in the grand scheme of things, and Daniel will remind us all of this, I'm sure, when he comes on here in an hour and a half, in the grand scheme of things, man, it's urinating into the wind, okay?
It's a moment.
It's a drop in the bucket.
It's a moment, as you said. It's not a movement.
Yes, correct. But
yes,
because of the era we are in, if you cannot capture, now here's how you make the emotional connection in the political arena. You have to capture the imagination. Barack Obama, we are the people we've been waiting for. Donald Trump, make America great again. If you cannot make the emotional connection or in the political arena, capture my imagination. I've got all kinds of distractions starting with this device right here. Whoops, not on camera. Where is it? There it is. All right. We all got one of those. The whole world is coming at me like never before in all of human history, right on this little thing that looks like a Starfleet communicator and fits in the palm of my hand. Like Alfred Montaigne's Dr. Octopus in the original Spider-Man 2. The power in the palm of my hand. That's essentially what you have. We all have it. Billions of us have it now. You got to capture my imagination. You know what's not going to capture my imagination? A spreadsheet. You know what's not going to capture my imagination? A ledger. You know what's not going to capture my imagination? Numbers and programs I don't understand, didn't even know existed. You know what will capture my imagination? Ethel, you're not going to believe this. We bought rubbers for the Taliban. That'll do it. That'll do it. You have to capture the imagination. Doesn't matter. Same thing, again, in evangelism. It doesn't matter how good you are arguing apologetics. If you cannot make an emotional connection, you're done. You're done. You don't get invited to the next step of the conversation. And in today's politics, if you cannot capture the imagination, it doesn't matter how good your record is. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are. It doesn't matter what your plans are. They don't connect and don't pay attention. That's where we are. Hate it, like it, dread it, run from it. Destiny arrives, all the same. It's where we're at. Live in the world we're in. Or you can be like the left and just magically think and project and destroy your society in the process. This is where we are, and it's called reality. And there's precedent for this. Much of Jesus' most memorable teachings are stories, making emotional connections, capturing imaginations. You have to do that. And that's what DOGE is doing. It is capturing the imagination. If you're a hardcore ideologue and you've been at this for a long time, you're laughing. You think it's funny, and you might even be right. But you're also, frankly, and these are some of my friends, you're a man at a time. I'm just telling you that. To get to the time you want us to get to, we have to capture the imagination first. People need to see 100 tranny activists turning government chat rooms into things that, frankly, every previous generation would have rounded them up and had them arrested for and put in a prison, buried in a hole, and then throw away the hole. They need to see that first, all right? They need to see that first before they're like, well, what do you think about just getting rid of, like, every Green New Deal program? They don't even know what that is, guys. They don't even know what that is. They have to see this first. They have to see this first. Make the emotional connection. Capture the imagination. They have to see this first. You're not born and then tomorrow is puberty. There's a process. And we're starting from a baseline in this culture right now of 0. So this idea we're going to go from 0 to, we're going to reform the entire government and undo 100 years since 1913 of profligate spending was never going to happen. People need to see 100 complete total degenerates and retards lose their jobs first. They need to see that first. And then they might let you do it to 1,000. And then they might let you do it to 10,000. And then they might let you to 100,000. See my point? This is a mentoring process. It's a discipleship process here. And it has to start with capturing the imagination, making the emotional connection. Again, this credit card that you can buy your way into citizenship, every previous generation of Americans would have laughed and scoffed at that. That's just stupid and silly. Why don't we just, screen people before they come in and decide if they're going to contribute? And if the answer is yes, we let them in. If the answer is no, we don't. Well, they weren't gay and retarded. We are. We're gay and retarded. We're gay and retarded. Weak and gay. We are. So we aren't going to do that. Right? For 20 years now, we have been grabbing every boomer grandma for a screening, for a proctology exam, for a Robert Stack, Beavis and Butthead doing America body cavity search. We've been doing that to every boomer grandma like we've been doing to the guys that come from the same countries as the people that caused the TSA to exist in the first place. Why? We're gay and retarded. We're weak and gay. That's what we are. We don't want to offend everybody, so we're just going to offend everybody. Okay? That's what we're going to do. No previous generations would have done that. That's why they were Americans. That's why they saved Western civilization and why we're on the brink of losing it. We're gay and retarded. They weren't. Retarded and gay, weak and gay. So but we can't change that. And we cannot communicate to people as if they're not that. They are. That's the audience. Unless we're just going to get All of us in conservative media and podcasting are all basically talking to the same people. Some of us are talking to more of those people than others, but we're all basically just slicing up the exact same sliver of pie. What are we? Maybe 20% of the electorate. We get it. You get it. That's not winning elections anywhere that matters, which means we've got to go to a bunch of people that have been turned weak and gay by our institutions on purpose. And we have to address them from that premise. Men, this is a football, Vince Lombardi said his first day coaching the Green Bay Packers. This is a degenerate. Okay, cool. Get rid of them. Cool. All right. This is non-essential. All right, cool. Got to move on. There's a coaching process here. And so this credit card is a total gimmick. And it's freaking brilliant. It speaks exactly to the base level of normie America. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to find out, who is really going to be good to come in. And no race is mentioned, no religion's mentioned, no ethnicity is mentioned. So Aaron's millennial friends don't have to feel like they're homophobic. My boomer parents don't have to feel like they're racists. Everybody's white guilt sore spot is satiated. That makes sense. I mean, probably lots of, gay people in the Philippines could afford a $5 million credit card and that are rich and they'd love to come in. Cool, that'd be great. Great way of screening people. It's brilliant. Now, it's a total gimmick. It will accomplish exactly squat in the grand scheme of what needs to really be done to reform the immigration system. But if you can't win the gimmick, if you can't capture the imagination, you're never getting to the substance. That's just where we are. And if you cannot accept this, you're in the wrong line of work. If you don't understand this, if you refuse to acknowledge this, cool. You're not a terrible person. In fact, you're probably smarter and better than the rest of us. But this just isn't going to be your era of political activism and engagement. Find something else. Otherwise, you're going to make yourself miserable. You just need to accept this. If you cannot work in this environment, it is what it is. Then this environment's not for you, and get different work. Get different shows. Listen to different content. Read different stuff. But it's where we are. It's not the era of Thomas Sowell. It's the era of speak to my soul. And you're never going to introduce me to Thomas Sowell until you can capture my imagination and speak to my soul first. Gentlemen, your thoughts.
To quote the great prophet Donkey, only a true friend would be that truly honest. I loved that. It is absolutely what I'm going for when I'm talking about sports pros and the non-cons. Listen, the message is what it is because you're the one on the other end who I've got to talk to. And we love you, brother, so we are actually reaching out to you in the format you think you will hear. That's what he's saying. Well, it's perfect. We will take you as seriously as you show us you want to be taken. These are the drills. I'm starting that off with the credit card thing, and then as Aaron weaves it into, and that one woman standing alone like a Chinese person in front of a tank in Maine, that's what we're up against.
Yes.
And so while you're doing your non-con sports pro stuff, we got to stop that. All right? And if that takes some gimmicks to slap you in the face, that's what it's going to take. We apologize for nothing.
Yeah, I've frequently given the whole standards versus expectations talks, and expectations can be a killer. You have to have standards. This is what we call our closed hand, things that we will never compromise on. Now, expectations will not always meet up with what your expectations, what you think the way your standards will play out and look like in real life. That's not always going to measure up to the standards. But I think it's a very important, this is kind of a pact I made with myself after the election. Fight with the army that you have, not the one that you think you need or the one that you think you deserve, okay? Take the victories that you have, not the ones that you think you need right now. Not the ones that standards versus expectations. Right now, this Trump administration is meeting basically every standard. Now, the expectation for how that plays out in the here and now is not always going to be what you think it needs to look like, but we are on the right path, nevertheless, I think.
Amen. Buy, sell, or hold is next. Stay tuned. First of all, our friends over at Deace Medical would like to thank all the first responders out there that have been dealing with the snowstorms, the fires, and other intense weather. And it's easy to forget how many people put their lives on the line to save us and our fellow Americans. But first responders can't be everywhere at once. And when it comes to emergencies, the thing to remember is that you are your own first responder. And one of the most important tools you can have in your kit is the Deace case. I can't recommend this highly enough. If you're the type of person who wants to be prepared when disaster strikes, to not get caught when with your pants down, when that could never happen to me, happens to me. If that's you, you're going to want this for your home. The Deace case is a personalized emergency kit that contains essential antibiotics and medications that treat the most common and deadly maladies and bacterial infections. It provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, and then they have customizable options from a wide menu of medications as well, including ivermectin as a potential add-on. So go to Deace.com, enter their giveaway, or purchase your own case when you enter the promo code Deace at checkout for a discount on your order, right? So go to Deace.com, Jase, enter their giveaway right there for a free Deace case, or purchase your own case. And when you do, make sure to use the code Deace at checkout for the discount. Promo code DEACE, Deace, at Jase.com, JASE. And with that, let's get to some buy, sell, or hold. It is your turn. Todd and Aaron, or no, Todd and me, courtesy of Aaron, are going to be seeing your submissions for the very first time. We will buy them, sell them. We are permitted to hold. But if at any point you choose to hold, Todd, there is a steep, stark penalty for such actions. And this week's penalty is that you have to be locked in a room for 24 hours and just listen as those internal Slack messages from the DEI degenerates under Biden's Department of Defense and DNI are read aloud to you over and over and over and over again.
Tranny.
Hours. Indeed. All right, Aaron, fire ahead. Fire when ready.
All right, we will begin with Darren. My top 5 accomplishments last week. Monday, listen to the Steve Deace Show. Tuesday, listen to the Steve Deace Show. Wednesday, listen to the Steve Deace Show and submitted multiple buy, sell, hold submissions. Thursday, listen to the Steve Deace Show. Friday, listen to the Steve Deace Show. Buy, sell, or hold. That's a good list of accomplishments.
I mean, I think that's one of the best buy, sell, or hold submissions in the history of this program.
I dare you to do better.
Might even be the best, in fact. Yes. So I'm going to be a hard buy on that. I think you're a great American even. And I think Trump should put you in the Hall of Heroes that he's working on. Indeed. I'll salute as well. Well said, Todd. You bet. We're not worthy even. Yes.
Uncontexted Deace 2 Electric Boogaloo. Top 5 things Steve did last week. Ate an entire box of pumpkin spice frosted flakes. Avoided speaking at CPAC. Blinged out his Crocs. Texted Connor Stallions. And put up his Christmas tree.
Yeah, bye.
So here's the thing.
Bye.
Here's the thing. You actually got 4 of those right.
Yeah.
Yep.
This ain't satire. We deal in truth here. He let the lion out of its cage right there, brother. I mean, my goodness. They know.
I think
everybody knows.
The only thing that he didn't do is put up a Christmas tree.
Correct.
Which in and of itself is a surprise.
Yes. Yes. I got to put my headphones back on. Sorry.
Facts. That's what that was.
Maybe you still can lead with your truth claim in our culture after all. Yeah. And it wasn't an entire box, just a bowl. Before the holidays end, I buy like 7 boxes and I plan it out. Todd's gonna be like, why do you say this stuff out loud? I look at the expiration date and I plan it out.
It's true.
I plan it out.
All of it.
All of it is. It is true. It's all true. All right. Pumpkin spice Special K, pumpkin spice frosted flakes. I've got a whole cabinet in the garage. And some of you, you've got like generators. I've got a cat. If it goes down and I'm left behind, all right, I'm pumpkin spice. And if the trumpet sounds and I'm left behind, I'm pumpkin spice until at least the fourth bowl judgment. All right. I got enough. I'm good. All right. Hunkered down. And I plan it out so that it lasts. And then I got to give myself a break. So I want it to last till about June. So I've got like a 2-month break before it all comes back out in August again.
He's
so
still
that,
talking, Aaron, for no apparent reason.
I just looked at the clock.
Just... He could have answered like 3 questions by now. He's still talking about one issue, Frosted Flakes. I mean, it's insane.
It's that meme from, I think it's Interstellar, that old woman. It's been 83 years.
You guys are like 40 years a slave. I think we can move on.
All right. Live Free says the Trump administration is currently fielding calls from international governments, officials, and power brokers attempting to negotiate last-minute deals in exchange for potential Epstein file redactions or omissions.
Bye.
Isn't that interesting?
That is an interesting thought. I'm going to sell hoping it's not true. I just think it's just time to just... It's just time for we need a detox, guys. And I just think it's, in all seriousness, man, I do this every January. I do a 30-day sugar detox every January because of how much sugar I eat during the holidays. I just need a detox, you know? And every now and then, you need a detox. A society needs a detox, a family, a culture, any relationship, any human endeavor just needs a detox, man. And I think we're way overdue for one. I think it's just time to just purge it and let it all out. Let the truth have its day. Let the truth be its own reward. And no more noble lies. And I just think it's time to just let it rip and let the chips fall where they may, so we can all just absorb and take a deep breath and then try to move on. I think we've just had enough of how to measure this and couch it. I think it's just time, man, to just let it rip, man. I do. I really do.
Well, not only is it time, we discussed this on Monday about what if some names are redacted, and does that mean they're likely Republicans? It's understandable that there might be some leverage plays, there might be some art of the deal, but somebody, and I can't remember, it was a big name just yesterday, and I totally agree with them. Pam Bondi and company they can't go back on this now. America wants this out badly. You said you have it. It's on your desk. There ain't no suddenly putting that back in the hole it came from. I mean, that would be a huge unforced error if they do that.
Yeah, I taped an interview on Eric Metaxas' show yesterday, and he asked me about Congresswoman Anna Paulina going at Pam Bondi, because remember, she's been put in charge of the House Select Committee on releasing all these files, okay? And he asked me my take on her going right at Pam Bondi, saying, hey, you said these are on your desk, these Epstein files, let's put them out there. What are we doing? Right? And like, I'm watching very, influential MAGA people like our buddy Tim Young. He's also going right at Anna Paulina saying, hey, we don't need any trips to the Dallas book depository. Okay, no JFK field trips, just release the files, right? So you got Anna Paulina going after Pam Bondi. You got MAGA influencers going after Anna Paulina saying, hey, release the stuff, no more games, right? Yeah. So Metaxas asked me my thought on this. I told him I thought it was healthy. I mean, if any great team, you want practice to be harder than the games. Any great team. Any great team, you want the cream to rise to the top. You want meritocracy, and you want practice to be harder than the games. By the time you get to the games, that team is so tested and so ready to unleash because of how hard practice was. That's what you want. And I kind of thought it was healthy, is what I kind of thought. But what's you guys' take on that?
Well, it's true if we do play the game, and playing the game is putting it out there. That has to. I don't think it's some great unforced error that it hasn't happened yet, but it's got to get out, and it's got to get out relatively soon.
Yeah, friction in the pursuit of righteousness is almost always a good thing. Friction in the pursuit. All of these players that you just pointed out, they're pursuing something that should be righteous, which is uncovering and naming all of the names that need to be named. So I'm totally cool with that. I had not seen either of those examples, though. Next, we go to Leave a Legacy, who says, once the social compact was broken, the American Revolution was inevitable.
Yes. 100%. And this is, I mean, I've said on this show over the last few years, the window to deal with these existential debates in a culture peaceably through the political process doesn't stay open into perpetuity. And in a society that's as free and prosperous as ours, it'll stay open a little bit longer than it will in any other type, but it's not a perpetual existence. This idea that we're just going to perpetually exist in a country where you're censored if you think men are men and women are women in your own legislature, and we're just going to do this for 40 years. No, we're not, guys. We're not going to do that. Might not do it for 40 days, 40 months, because here's the other thing, too. When the social compact is broken, you never know when the shots are heard around the world. You never know. You never know. A lot of time, and it just you wake up one day and it's Fort Sumter. You wake up one day and it's Lexington and Concord. You wake up one day and Nebuchadnezzar's outside the city gate. You wake up one day and Warsaw just got blitzkrieged. You never know. And you always think it'll never happen, and you always think nothing ever happens. We're at the end of history. You always think this until it does. Okay? So there's never been a mass transfer of prosperity and liberty and property in all of human history, and there's never going to be one. There's never going to be one. All right? And so our founders gave us a political process so that we don't have to wake up every Sunday morning wondering, well, which general's tanks are rummaging through the streets this week? Who's in charge this week? So that we didn't have to do that. All right. We will take advantage of that peaceable political process, aggressively take advantage of it, but peaceably, but aggressively. We will do that, or eventually, you'll get backed into a corner, and you'll have to do it with the other kinds of means that some of the saddest chapters in history books are written about. Because for every American Revolution, that's some of the greatest chapters in history books were written about that. The 99% of the time in human history, when that existential cliff has been reached, the culture falls off of it. It doesn't get better. It falls off. All right? That's why we are that 5,000-year leap that Cleon Skousen wrote about so many years ago. A literal miracle in the 5,000-year small e evolution of human history. 99% of the time when human societies come to the we can't live together cliff, they just go over the cliff, Thelma and Louise. They're gone. They're done. They burn up. They're done. For every American Revolution, there's 5,000 other examples of, well, welcome to the ash heap of history.
Totally agree, and that dovetails nicely with what you said in the top of the show, Steve, about the way we have to convey messages to you. It has everything to do with what you just said. If you want to spend all your time doing A, B, and C on this, you have at some point need to stand a post on A, B, and C in the grown-up world before you get endlessly entertained. Otherwise, all that goes away, and they're promising you, like in Maine. That's why when yesterday I went to the Capitol on my day off and spoke in 2 subcommittee meetings, and instantly they're trying to play to your soft-headed, can't we all just to get along? Won't you just live our lives? Let parents decide for their own family what they do with their kids and what they let them read. I got up after a couple of those speakers and I said, they're lying to you. Stop listening to the NPR tones now. And remember, they play, and I wish I didn't have the main example, but I got it in my own life. I said, they don't want to just leave you alone. They promise you they're going to hurt you. There's a reason my kids aren't in school in the same school district anymore. And I flat out said to them, the LGBT community harassed us. It's documented. It's the reason why my kids could transfer school and not have to sit out sports. They targeted us. They love doing it. That is the plan. And we get soft-headed and lazy because we just want to go back in default to do what we do on weekends. Not good enough.
Amen.
Yeah, indeed. Colton O'Halloran says the rise in airplane crashes and malfunctions is an elaborate plan from the elites to slowly start to limit our ability to travel by scaring people into thinking flying is not safe so they can stuff us all into our 15-minute city boxes to make us eat bugs.
I have had that unconscious thought.
I'm going to sell because that should be a submission from 2022. Wrong people are in charge to be pulling that kind of stuff now. Should have played that game a year or two ago when you had Rear Admiral running Secretary of Transportation. Just the wrong. I mean, that's like a J.D. Vance damn takedown tweet just waiting to happen. The wrong people are in charge to run that kind of game.
No, they haven't been in charge long enough. I'm being honest. That thought has come into my head numerous times. So I'll just buy on that front. Look at what they did to us with COVID. I mean, it's something like this is on the table. They don't want us to be free. They want to be able to fly wherever they want to, and they want to stuff us in a hole.
Can I make a public service announcement very briefly on these airline near misses and incidents? I've seen the take profligated a number of different times over the last few weeks. Hey, why are they just so happen to be cameras in the right place at the right time for all of these incidents? There are at major airports all around the country. There are people who just do that. They just videotape airplanes coming in, taking off. There are people who just do that. And it's not a new thing. It's not a new phenomenon, as far as I'm aware. It's not like what happened at Yosemite this morning. Did you see this? All of those federal workers at the those park rangers, they're just so distraught. It's just so hard up. They're just so stressed because of all of these firings that they had the time to summit El Capitan and plant an American flag upside down, just as a number of cameras were in the perfect angle. That's the phony stuff that you're looking for, not necessarily the airport video footage that you've seen. Next up, we go to Sniper BBB. Wisconsin proposal to call mothers inseminated persons and not call fathers the logical extension of that is proof that even demons have limits. Did you see the story?
I did. Yeah, I'm pondering the proposition. I'm going to sell. I think this goes back to the curse. I think that hell has a unique hatred for Eve and her daughters. And, this is enmity between you and the woman. I think there's a unique level of hatred that hell has for the women. And so I don't think it has anything to do with that. I don't think it's about limits at all. I think it's about limitless removal and chastising and condemnation and scorn for femininity. That's what I think it's about.
Absolutely. And you're up, Badger State. Let's see if my former fellow sports bros in Wisconsin can get off the couch and spit in the face of this one. Odds are high it won't happen.
Indeed. We'll come back. Odds are high we're coming back for hour 2, though. And we're going to have more buy, sell, or hold and the prophet of woe and lamentation next. Stay tuned. We are back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And please also subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. Remember, we got to start all over there because we got creamed by the second largest search engine on planet Earth for telling you truth that you needed to know in 21 and 22 before they wanted you to know it because they wanted to poison you instead. And so we made sure to tell you the truth when you needed to hear it. And because of that, they absolutely crushed us. So we got to start all over again. And we're hoping now that they're willing to let you know those truths 3 to 4 years after it's too late to tell you and the damage is already done, that maybe they'll go easy on us if we start all over again. So we need your help. Please subscribe to the new YouTube channel, at Deace Show. And then if you are a podcast listener, make sure to hit subscribe or on iTunes follow, and that'll make sure every time we do a new episode, it shows up in your feed every single time. And then also leave us a 5-star review. And we appreciate you if you have, and we would humbly ask you if you have not yet to consider doing that as well. Thank you to all of you that have done either or both of those things, or maybe will do so at some point in the future. Thanks to our friends again over at Patriot Mobile. When we have talked so much over the last few years about how Patriot Mobile reinvests in with what you invest into them, again, I've seen it with my own eyes. Saw it this week here in Dallas. Saw it several events I went and spoke at around the country. Patriot Mobile was a sponsor for every last one of them. They are on the vanguard of the parallel economy we greatly need. We don't yet have. It's coming, though. But one place where we do have it fully realized is with one product we all need in our modern era, and that's our mobile phones. Do what our family did. Make the switch today. I promise you won't look back. And I know what you're thinking. I've got kids and teenagers and mother-in-law and dad and so many different accounts. It's going to be a massive hassle. I thought the same thing. It wasn't. Their outstanding U.S.-based customer service team made it as seamless as absolutely possible. They will customize it to whatever your family's particular needs are as best they can, including you can switch your number if you want to do that. You can keep your number, upgrade your phone, maybe even keep your phone. Whatever you want to do, they'll do as much as they can to meet you right where you are at. And they give you all the same coverage as all the communist carriers do as well. All right, so make the switch today, and they'll get you started with a free month of service if you use my name, Steve, as your promo code to get kicked off here. Promo code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. That's promo code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. Promo code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. The prophet of woe and lamentation returns here at the bottom of the hour. But until then, let's march on with some more buy, sell, or hold.
All right, we will continue on with John Kincaid. Katie Hobbs goes to prison. Buy, sell, or hold.
I'm just going to say buy because I want it to be true. I need this in my life. I'll buy.
Hey, man, it's me. So
I need lots of prison sentences in my life. In fact. And you get a sell, and you get a sell, and you get a sell. I need lots of that. In fact, I'm almost fetishizing it at this point.
Make it so.
Next up, we go to Jonathan Evans. Now that Kathleen Kennedy is reportedly resigning, Todd will tune into March Madness, plus rewatch Rogue One and Andor Season 1 prior to the release of Andor Season 2 right after Easter.
I still got to get through Andor Season 1, man. Everyone I know told me how great it is. And here's the thing. I got to like episode 4 and thought it was really good, and I just forgot. And that was like 6 months ago. So I agree. I thought it was really good. But, I mean, now you've got her stepping aside. It just seems like nature's healing, guys. Now, the damage may be done. You know, this is it might be an unrecoverable franchise, but I have to tell you, I walked in to the Blaze offices today to come in and do the show. And right there in the lobby, and I posted a picture of it on my X account. Right there in the lobby, some of the latest additions to Glenn's ever-expanding collection of Americana are actual on-set R2-D2, C-3PO, and Darth Vader costumes. Almost the closest thing. I mean, if pop culture has relics, this would be among them. And I got to tell you, you think it's unrecoverable. They can't undo the damage they've done. But I have to tell you, I'm 51 years old. When I walked in here today, and the first thing when I walked through those doors, guys, was see those 3 replicas, and I'm like a little kid waiting in line outside a Mann's Chinese Theater in May of 1980 to see Empire Strikes Back all over again, you know? So I think what she has done to the franchise is unrecoverable, irredeemable. And I'm not going to say it's going to be an easy recovery or redemption, all right? This is going to be one of the hardest ones maybe in pop culture history because of the amount of people that it's just betrayed, disappointed, let down, and hurt. But that's still some of the most iconic imagery in American pop culture history. So I'm not sure that I'll give up on it yet. I'll be interested to see who takes over and what they have to say immediately upon taking over.
Todd, you got anything else?
I will sell for now.
I'm selling. I'm rooting for all of it to continue to fail until we fix the adult things we don't deserve. The extended childhood things, and because our desire for the extended childhood things is what got us to this place in the first place. We just refuse to do the adulting. We don't deserve to have these things anymore.
Next up, Gulf Coast Pool Guy says, this is the current Mount Rushmore of dating red flags. COVID vaxxed, go to a woman-led church, offended when you call things gay and retarded, and vegan.
I'm going to say yes to the
selling.
first three unequivocally. I'm going to buy on the first three unequivocally. Unequivocally, going to buy. The first one, the first one. I need you guys to give me a call here. Make a judgment call here. If I reject the very first one, does that mean therefore I reject everything? Because it's the first one.
The vaxxed, COVID jabbed.
Yeah, that's the one I'm going to reject. Here's why. People were put under the greatest coercive advertising onslaught in human history. After they had just been given the greatest psyop, perhaps, in all of global psyop, perhaps, in all of human history. All right? I mean, I'm not going to, if you amended that to they're on their third booster, I'm good, man. I'm totes good with it, okay? But people were broken by institutions across the world that even in the church, Franklin Graham, man, was freaking pipping these shots, okay? It wasn't just the neo woke camel nose under the tent insurgents from, that think Russell Moore's cool. It wasn't just the Ed Stetzers. Even freaking Franklin Graham was pimping these things. All right, so we were meat tenderized for 8 months, and then right after that, completely the greatest global psyop of all time. Every nation on earth, regardless of form of government, belief system, custom, Thanos snapped their own people simultaneously, except for like 3. Dude, Israel had its very first religiously observant Jewish prime minister who served in the military, but apparently never read a history book and said, by all means, Pfizer, come and turn the Jewish people into plebes of the bio-fascist security state. So 8-9 months of that went on. And then like that, and then the Thanos snapped again. Here's the cure with the greatest coercive advertising publicity campaign of all time in all of human history. If you're going to fault people who succumb to that, you have way too high of a standard for human nature, frankly. And I think mercy needs to triumph over judgment. Now, if you want to amend that to on your third booster, I'm with you. But no, the very first one I wholeheartedly reject. The other 3, though, keeping it 100.
Yeah, did it say vaxxed or vaxxer?
Vaxxed.
Okay, yeah. I'm the anti-vaxxer on the show, and I'm rejecting number 1. Steve just did a homiletic on what I tell you all the time about. This is what I mean about the magical power of vaccines. Would you also, as a Christian, would you, somebody who had a problem, with drugs, alcohol in the past, the depth of what this contagion does to people. From the time that they can think about things, they think vaccines are magic. Way before COVID came along, they do. All right? So it may be a deal breaker right after the first date, but, Steve tells you, who will hear the gospel if there's no one there to preach it? Mm-hmm. People are still, and a lot of people with R's behind their name, people still think, yeah, sure, there might have been some side effects now that are coming to light, but millions of people were saved. They still believe dumb crap like that. So they need to hear it from somebody. Maybe that one date might do it, even if it's just one date.
All right, next up we go to Dances with Pooh, who says, I predict all the world's super artificial intelligences will conglomerate into Ultron, but Grok will be humanity's Jarvis, who will seek to defeat Ultron, and Jarvis's physical form will be a cyborg that resembles Elon Musk. Ultron's physical form is to be determined, but will definitely resemble a DEI hire.
The thing is, though, you forgot how MAGA, No King But Jesus, the libertarians, and the anarcho-capitalists are going to come together like Voltron, okay, and form one cell. Man, come on. Cell, bro.
Todd.
Come on. Cell.
Well, I'll only buy because my wife and I were talking about this morning. The future is going to be different, and it's going to be weird, and it's going to be very dehumanizing. And the church is not even remotely prepared for what's to come.
All right, moving on. Next is Ethan McClellan. For the fellow Gen Z and millennials that exist in the Deace audience, Mount Rushmore of early 2000s emo rock albums. Number 1, The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. Number 2, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out by Panic at the Disco. Number 3, Infinity on High, Fall Out Boy. Number 4, Fallen by Evanescence. Buy, sell, or hold, Todd and Steve, you've heard of any of these entities whatsoever?
Number 4, Evanescence, by the way.
What did I say?
Is number 4. That one, Evanescence.
Oh,
but that's
Evanescence, sorry.
Number 4 I have heard of. The other 3 I have not. I mean, dude, one of the best songs of the early 2000s is Evanescence, Bring Me Back to Life. Yeah. That song is a freaking... I mean, that's an anthem, okay? But the rest of that, man, we're getting to the edge of when I quit caring about what music was new. You get past like 2003, you get past like Stained and Evanescence. So 2002, 2001, 2, 3, you get past Stained and Evanescence in that era, and I'm kind of tapped out. And then I kind of caught back up again, when the kids got older, because I'm trying to pay attention as a parent to what they're listening to, obviously, and is it terrible or not, So we're pushing the boundaries of my pop culture, pop music relevance. All right. So the first 3, I've heard of Fall Out Boy. Well, no, wait, that was Fall Out, not Fat Boy Slim. That was Fall Out Boy. Then I do know that one because dude. One band I fell in love with through my kids, retroactively, was Fall Out Boy. Now that's a quality catalog of music, all right? But half of that list I have no idea, and so I have to sell. I'm too old.
The only coherent thing I got from all of that is, yes, Bring Me to Life by Evanescence is an incredible song. Unfortunately, I believe they wrote that as Christians and then decided not to be Christians after that song, is the story I've heard. So
I did not
I could be wrong about that
because
it was I don't know how long that song is. That song's at least a decade old now, but I was already into old manners and phase then. So, but that's what I heard. It's an incredible.
Well, Paul Hewitt. Yeah. Paul Hewitt originally founded a band that he wanted to be a Christian band too, and that didn't work out. Although they ended up selling a crap ton of albums after the fact. Some of you know him as Bono.
Did you ever hear the goofy version of what was it? Bring Me Back to Life.
The goofy version?
Yeah, goofy, like from...
from a Disney, okay. Yeah. No, I had not heard that.
Yeah, you need to look that up. It's tremendous.
I love the meme of Goofy saying, I'll do it again, too. I love that meme.
Dr. Rusty Shackelford says, the longer it takes to release the JFK files and the Epstein list, the less we can trust how complete they are.
So I think this is true.
Yeah. I think that's true.
But I also think it's been a month. They just had the first cabinet meeting today. Okay? Now, I don't want anybody. I mentioned my buddy Tim Young earlier. I think he has tweeted 9 times in the last 48 hours. Release some files. Okay? I don't want anybody to stop doing that. Keep doing that. All right? I think there's a difference between keep their heads ringing and blackpilling, okay? I think it's a little early for blackpilling, okay? Most of the people that would actually oversee what we want are just now getting into place, and several others are not yet even in place. So I don't think it's too early to start saying, let's go, let's move. I think blackpilling to this degree, it's a little too early for that, okay? So I'd let it breathe for a little bit longer. What's a little bit longer, man? I don't know. Yep. I just think it's not time to blackpill yet.
I agree with that.
Next, we go to Tom Cornell. Steve will become Catholic because of the choice of the next pope.
So,
I would love for this dilemma to happen. I'm very confident, sadly, it will not. I would love to create that. This is tension. I would love to create. I would love to create this. I got into this business for this argument, these kinds of arguments, not to do gay and retarded and weak and gay. Okay. I didn't get into this to do that. I got into this to do this stuff. I want to do this stuff. Unfortunately, we're weak and gay and retarded. So we don't get to do this stuff anymore. Okay. And now, frankly, the Protestants and Catholics need each other and have to tolerate each other. We were better when we were trying to kill each other. West was better. It was a better Western civilization. We were trying to kill each other. But now we need each other because there's almost no Western civilization left. So, because we're weak and gay and retarded. So I would love for this to happen. I'd love it. I mean, I'd love for a pope to be selected, that Todd just comes in here like Kumo D, how you like me now, just like naming and shaming evangelical leaders, all right? And like just putting it on Aaron and I, just feeling his oats. Oh, I would love for that to happen. I got into this business for that, thinking that that's what I would be a part of happening. Not. Guys, do you think maybe the dude with the Adam's apple shouldn't be in the weightlifting contest with the chicks? Didn't think I was getting into this to do that, guys. Thought I was getting into this to do this, not that, but here we are. Here we are.
Todd, is it my perception that with each passing day, the updates from the Vatican have gotten more opaque, or is that just me?
Yeah, but I think that's a product of just this holding pattern of it's not good news, and also we can't say death is imminent yet, so what's left to say?
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. Any other takes on this, Todd?
No, I've got too much respect for Steve's faith. It's real. I mean, and it's a privilege to learn from it and experience it firsthand on a regular basis. I took this literally, in that if Cardinal Sarah, it would be game on to think about it, but then it's going to be about, hey, faith without works is dead. Show me. Like he's always said, this is not a new question. If you want to convince me to think about becoming Catholic, show me the fullness of it. Well, but any one guy, the only guy that would make you think about it might be coming is Cardinal Sarah. The rest I don't know enough about, or I do not know enough about that it might not be Francis, but it ain't going to just be like, once more into the breach, my friends. So but mostly my answer is actually, and this is something that some folks on the other side need to be beaten over the head about when it comes to Catholics. I've got way too much respect for Steve and Aaron's Protestant faith, its reality, what it does in their lives, their testimony, to be so blasé about saying that one papal conclave would suddenly beat them over the head. Their faith is real and it's beautiful. And like I said, I'm blessed by it, and we should be engaging in that two-way street as much as possible these days, instead of the ridiculous bathroom pranks that way too many are engaged in on X. You guys think you're smart, you're dumb and proud at the same time, and that's a very dangerous mix.
Next, we go to Jay Ford.
That is, by the way, back at you, brother. Thank you.
Next, we go to Jay Ford, who says Maine Representative Laurel Libby is the hero high school girls need and is doing the work Maine dads should be doing.
Yeah.
Evergreen. I mean, we could honestly just do a version of this in almost every story.
And
we're just watching Genesis 3 play itself out. All right. The enemy comes at the women. The enemy hates the women. The enemy hates Eve. The enemy hates daughters of Eve. Where's Adam? Where's Adam? And where are the sons of Adam? Where they always are. Hands in their pockets, looking around. Isn't Eve hot? What am I doing here? I've got all this testosterone and all this, musculature. I guess I'm just here to, gawk. I mean, this is played out over and over and over and over again. And it's playing out chronically and acutely in our culture right now.
Yeah, Steve, you, after the show that we did, the second part of Monday with having the guys from the Family Leader and to talk about Iowa, I don't know if it's out yet. I haven't seen it, but the column that you wrote about that very issue and attaching that to Iowa leading once again on an issue and perhaps defining the terms. Now, prophetically, just 48 hours later, here's your choice. America, pick Iowa or Maine. You have to pick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and again, I said it before, not knowing this question was going to come up. They're right now, they've taken enough losses. They're going into their NPR voices and they're saying, "Why won't you just let us live our best lives? Leave us alone. Why are you so obsessed with us?" No. Again, I have personal experience. They're showing you in Maine. They're not going to leave you alone. They're going to round you up. They're going to put you in camps. They hate you. They get off on this. They're fetishists. They're unwell. They're demonically influenced. Do not let them fool you. Do not go back to Star Wars or fantasy football or your video games, grown-up man, until you do what Steve did. You have to stand a post in an American. Otherwise, you can get the hell out to Maine, too, and absorb all of it.
All right, moving on. We'll go to Diane DeVore, who says the same people who won't give $1 to the homeless guy on the street corner because it may be a scam hands over 20%, 30%, 40% of their income in the form of taxes with no questions asked.
That's very well said. Have you guys seen the Drake meme? That's the Drake. That's who that guy is, right? The rapper.
I think so. Yeah.
Like this.
This.
Okay. Have you seen that? Okay. The Drake meme. Ordered to inject an experimental mRNA vaccine into your body to possibly keep your job. Ordered to write an email with 5 bullet points about what you did last week to possibly keep your job. Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, what did I say at the top? We're gay and retarded. Weak and gay.
Yes.
That's what we are.
How many times have we reset that on the show in various ways? We do that because we have our bread and circuses. There's nothing new under the sun. We have our copium that allows us to get raped and pillaged and stolen from over and over again, but somehow we can walk away to our own private Idaho and think, well, I'm keeping the earth flat over here. That's what this is speaking to. We have these glorious lies we tell ourselves, and those lies are fatter and dumber than ever before.
Next, we go to Jason Williams. The world would be better off if NATO had allowed Russia to join in 1991 when they asked to. Buy, sell, or hold.
You know what? I think you'll like this answer, gentlemen. If NATO is what it claims to be, well, let me rephrase it. If NATO still is what it claims to be, then how is the answer to this question not yes? You see what I'm getting at here?
Yes.
Well, if that's why it's no.
If it's truly its founding vision, all right, as the beacon alliance of Western civilization, okay, if that's truly what it is. And it's no longer, and it's not devolved into a grift of Western elites who are at best democratic socialists, if not outright communists and God haters. If that's not the case, then the answer to this question has to be buy. It has to be yes. If NATO is an altruistic organization, then the answer has to be it was foolish not to take. People forget there was an era between the Soviet Union and Vladimir Putin. The Boris Yeltsin era was kind of, in a way, Russia's Weimar Republic. And it was just an ungovernable country. And Yeltsin could never get his arms around it and ended up devolving into the thugocracy you see today. So if NATO is still needed and necessary, as its proponents claim, then the answer to this question must be buy. It must be that it was foolish not to bring in a nascent democracy and bring them in and cultivate them and disciple them and nurture that so we never faced another multi-continent specter like the Soviet Union ever again. The answer, so you have to choose one. Either NATO has outlived its usefulness and demonstrated that by this mistake, or NATO is still a mistake because it didn't fulfill its own mission by not taking Russia in. It's your choice. I don't know that you can't have them both. So I'm going to buy. I'll take the NATO people at their word. So then, therefore, yes, this was a mistake.
How much of what we have seen from Russia my entire life, particularly in the last 15 years, is a product of Vladimir Putin not getting to sit at the cool kids' table? I don't think it's a majority. I don't think it's a majority of what we've seen, but I don't think it's a non-factor either.
Yes, we're all guys. All men are the same. We all have fragile egos. We all want to know what's the game, who's keeping score, and how do I win. We're all the same. Now, what's different is what percentage matters in our decision-making process at any given time for each of us men. What percentage does that ego matter? Okay? But it always matters. It always matters. How much does it matter at any given moment, in any given decision? We can't read minds. We're not the Holy Spirit. We don't know. But in general, the male ego matters in every single decision. We're just arguing the ratio. I
think he actually does not really care so much about the cool kids table. I think it was just last week I said, and he actually holds it in contempt until that dweeb from Ukraine actually took over the reverse Wakanda and said, okay, that's my limit. I cannot tolerate this guy prancing and dancing around, so I'm going to expose it. But everything, Steve, your answer, I loved it, but it had me thinking of the middle of the movie Endgame, where they're back in time trying to redo things, and Ant-Man's on Robert Downey Jr.'s shoulder. It says, "Who's that?" And it's the former leader, Robert Redford. He's like, "Well, that's the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D." Well, actually, it's no, it's not actually S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. It's whatchamacallit. Who's the
Hydra?
It's Hydra, but we didn't know that at the time. I mean, that's basically what your answer was. What was this organization all along?
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't just meant to be a temporary buffer against Soviet expansionism, and it has like a permanent place, then make the argument for me why you didn't bring Russia in when it threw the Soviet Union overboard and tried to adopt democracy for 20 minutes. Why wouldn't you have brought them in then? Why not? What was the point? I mean, if you can't see what's right in front of you, then why do we need you?
Mistakes were made, maybe. Next.
A lot of that going around these days.
Next, we will go to Carrie, the prophecy of the popes of, is it St. Malachi? Malachi will prove correct in its final prediction of the current pope being the last before the Antichrist.
Well, that is the correct. That is correct. That this, according to Saint Malachi, is the final pope. Yeah. That is correct. Okay. Now, whether Malachi is correct, I have no way of knowing. I'm going to sell because so far there's been lots of these for centuries, and none of them have been right on various fronts. So the odds are that this won't be either. But that is a proper rendering of Saint Malachi's prophecy.
Yeah. Sell. Same reasons.
More in the overtime.
Always fun, and always fun to talk to our friend and colleague and the prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz, when we return. Hey, back here on the Steve Deace Show, and ladies, if you missed last year's Share the Arrows event, don't make that mistake again. Our friend and colleague, Ali Stuckey, has promised that this year is going to be even bigger and more powerful. Coming up October 11th here in Dallas, where I'm at right now. Meant to strengthen, equip, and encourage Christian women to stand firm in God's word. So if you're feeling overwhelming, and it's just more difficult than ever to live out your faith in a world that rejects biblical truth, here's the good news. You are not alone. So you can join thousands of like-minded women for a day of bold teaching, powerful worship, and real encouragement. Not just another women's conference. It's a community-building event that transforms lives, and you're going to hear from some of the most steadfast Christian voices of our time. You don't want to miss it at all. Tickets go on sale on Friday. So set your reminders, tell your friends, to get ready to be a part of something truly life-changing. And Blaze subscribers get first access to early bird tickets. They're on sale right now at sharethearrows.com. That's sharethearrows.com. Tickets go on sale on Friday. Let's welcome in the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation himself, the one and only Daniel Horowitz. It's good to see you, brother. Let's get right to it. There was kind of a budget fight battle. It's on page 29E of all of our coverages right now with everything going on, but I know you were covering it, so let us know what happened.
You know, kind of everything we talk about, this is where the ink is put to dry on what we'll actually endure. I think if we had to look at the first Trump administration, the biggest problem I always had was exactly what you just said, the lack of focus on the budget fights. So it's like, you know, you'll have all this stuff going on, everyone's focusing, and then the Super Bowl of what will determine with finality that outcome was going on, and we were taking on water, and we could sure use the troops. We had nothing, and I think this is what's happening. So basically, the Senate passed a slimmed down version, not addressing the tax cuts, just another $340 billion in defense and immigration spending, and then about $514 billion in cuts over 10 years. The House just passed a version to do it all in one bill. The tax cut extensions with about $300 billion in new spending, and then instructions to the committees to offset it with at least $1.5 trillion in spending over 10 years. Now, this was a dynamic where the Freedom Caucus felt it wasn't cutting enough, albeit they negotiated to get it to $1.5 trillion. Without them, it was going to be somewhere between $300 and $500 billion over 10 years, so about $30 to $50 billion over a year. And the rhinos think it cuts too much. So what happened was, it looks like the rhinos were willing to allow the ball to roll, to begin rolling. Remember, the resolution does not do anything. It instructs them to write the reconciliation bill within those top line parameters. So this is really where the fight is going to be in crafting it. So I think they wanted it. Some of the Freedom Caucus guys were upset that side by side, remember, this addresses mandatory spending and the tax cuts, but the appropriation bill, which is due March 14th, will address discretionary. Think about things like the Department of Education. Think about things like USAID, like the Green New Deal, energy subsidies, things like that. My understanding is that leadership has not committed to codifying almost any of the Trump-targeted cuts in the budget. So they would have a continuing resolution, continuing everything, as if November never happened, straight through, straight line from the Biden administration, maybe with some differences here or there. So they were upset they didn't get an agreement on that. They were holding this up. Trump gave them a call. We don't know the nature of that call, but 3 out of the 4, except for Massey, agreed to pass it. So it did pass. And here is where we are. So my overall sort of top line from this is, I know a lot of conservatives don't like the budget resolution, but here's the irony. That's the best it's going to get. It's only going to go downhill from there. The Main Street Caucus, which has 60, 70 members now, they're going to gut any real spending cuts. Just that's going to happen. And then, Steve, here's another thing that's just important for people to know with the math. I don't know why no one else is talking about this, but I doubled and triple checked the numbers. So the tax cuts are going to be $4.5 trillion, the extension. And we all, generally want them extended, although I would say not every line item of the TCJA from 2017 is, gospel. It doesn't have to be exactly that way. So that $4.5 trillion, you understand, it only covers the straight extension. So the SALT cap, which is they want to have an unlimited deduction for blue state and local taxes, that brings it to $5.3 trillion. Then Trump wants targeted tax cuts for overtime, Social Security benefits, and tips. And then it seems like also dropping the corporate rate from 21 to 15 for domestic manufacturers, which sounds like a good idea. You put that together according to the Tax Foundation, which is, pro tax cut, it's another 2.5. So that gets you to 7.8 trillion. Now, I think we all believe that you don't want to do a static analysis, that it will induce more economic growth than not having tax cuts. So maybe rather than 7.8, maybe the Tax Foundation would take it down to 6.5. But you sort of get the idea. How are we bringing down inflation?
I think the way you're arguing this is interesting because you're framing it around that question. And there is a constituency that wants to bring down inflation. There is not a constituency of any significant magnitude that wants to have the kinds of cuts in government people like you and I would like to see. That constituency, you cannot get elected to any meaningful office in America on that constituency. So I think framing it from the perspective of, well, what's the solution to inflation? All right, so we all agree profligate government spending causes inflation. Not the only thing that causes it, but it's the main cause of it in our current era. We all agree to this, okay? So then vis-a-vis, if we all want to get rid of inflation, then we've got to do something about profligate government spending. It would seem the inversion would be true. I think framing it that way is a way more effective message than, listen, I love Thomas Massey to death. You know that.
Yep.
Okay? But there's just not a constituency for what he did yesterday. It doesn't mean I think it's wrong. It doesn't mean I think it's wrong. I'm just telling you, though, in the world in which we live, there's not a constituency for that. Okay?
So I agree with you.
But the argument that you're making gets to the same point he wants to make, but from a far more politically palatable perspective, I would say.
So we only have about 5 minutes. I encourage everyone, shameless plug. I did a full hour today, solo, no guests. I explained exactly what I would have in reconciliation, how I would message it. And the point is, to your point, my plan is more populist in messaging and more conservative and achievable in outcomes. What I don't like here's what they're doing now. What they're doing now is going to suffer all of the political liabilities without any of the benefits, literally the rerun of the Obamacare fight. And ironically, it overlaps with the whole Medicaid business. Same thing, where you're going to suffer the liability as if you're doing all of this, but you're not really doing it. You're not bringing down inflation. And here's my problem. They're centering it around tax cuts, and that's what bothers me. So their message right now is tax cuts. Okay. Oh, we need to find some offsets, so let's go find some offsets. Inflation doesn't even loom in this discussion. It's bizarre to me. Here's the way I explained it to people. I'm using government data. If you earn below the income threshold during COVID, you got 3 rounds of checks. Let's go with family of 4. Family of 4 got $10,400. Very nice, in your pocket for 1 year. What that, along with the adjacent spending, did was it launched into orbit like a satellite, an irrevocable cycle now of interest on debt and inflation that we can't get out of. So if you take BLS's numbers from 2021, 2022, 2023 on household expenditures, how much does the average family of 4 spend to live? Now, I had to project for 2024, because they don't have it yet. $50,000 more just in the first four years. And this is the foreplay. We're just getting started.
Right.
Okay, 50,000. Republicans have done a poor job explaining to the people that the programs that you claim to want are engendering a cost of living that create a need for them, and rinse and repeat. Trump has a bigger megaphone than the media and the Democrats. This needs to be done through the front door. And I explain a lot of things with healthcare reform, that it's not just austerity and ways to do it. But the point is, Republicans are lying to themselves. They're giving people the impression that you can do things with this waste, fraud, and abuse. And then they're making way too much of an emphasis on tax cuts for this juncture in history. By the way, the same polling data shows most Trump supporters also think the rich don't pay enough in taxes. So by the same token, they're being too populist on spending and frankly not enough on taxes. It's a very weird mixture. And by the way, the Democrats would be forced to agree to 80% of the extension. You know that. The Democrats would agree with the child tax credit. They can't allow that to elapse. The AMT on the middle class, the rates for all but the top 2. The top rate, it's worth $350 billion out of the $4.5 trillion. I would personally just cede it to them and put it back in their court. All right, now you're going to raise taxes on everyone else. And then that way you don't have to tie yourself down so that the 37 rate doesn't go back to 39.6. We're going to die if it does, Steve. But somehow we're not going to die if healthcare continues to be a dumpster fire like this and the cost of living is the way it is. I am not hearing the cost of living. And you're not going to win a fight like this. I agree with you. They're going to incur all the liabilities, none of the benefits. It's Obamacare repeal on steroids.
How much of this, and man, we could do a whole show on this, and I got 3 minutes. All right, so totally unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How many members? You said how many members in the Main Street Caucus?
60 or 70.
Okay, how many are in the Freedom Caucus?
Low 30s.
Isn't that your real problem? Ultimately, this is really, really an ungovernable coalition. These sides really, truly,
bingo, really
can't be in a party together. Really, just really can't. Is that really
sides,
ultimately the problem?
Yeah. You saw it vividly. One side's like, this thing does, 1.5 trillion out of an 89 trillion budget. The other side's like, the Medicaid, the food stamps. So
yes.
you can't bridge that divide. By the way,
we've got
guys,
essentially just told our audience that about 30-40% of the GOP caucus are basically liberals who just aren't cultural Marxists. And so that's why they're Republicans. That's essentially what you just said. So
Steve,
how do you form a coalition, a governing coalition with that?
A lot of them are hawking USAID too, just so you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing they want to cut. Nothing. So, this is the problem. And like I keep saying, if we keep endorsing and nominating these rhinos, something's got to give. We need to change some sort of strategy. I don't know what to tell you, Steve. Like, I have no agenda here. I want this to work. I would have voted for that budget resolution because honestly, it's only going to go downhill from there. That's the best you're getting from them. And you're not going to get that.
Yeah. Good stuff, my friend. Keep up the great work. All right, appreciate you.
See you later.
Thank
Hopefully
you,
better news next week.
You are the prophet of woe and lamentation for nothing. All right, Todd and Aaron, your thoughts either on that or final thoughts maybe on the show overall here. We got about 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, we're lucky we're getting what we're getting at all, budget or otherwise, and it's happening just because there's a few singular people who are deciding I don't give a bleep anymore. The men that you talked about at the end there give a bleep so desperately about what people think about them that Rome wasn't built in a day. We're still only a month and a half into this thing. Honestly, what did people think was going to happen in Congress?
I was the one saying in December, I mean, the institution is just broken. It's just broken.
Men are broken because
yes.
Men are broken.
Yes.
They're there and they want to be told they're pretty.
So still overall very optimistic about what's going on right now with the Trump administration. But I'm going to be the first to remind you that if this country is to be saved, you have to get into the mindset that maybe it can be restored to something that you remember from your childhood. If you're, Todd and Steve's age or older, it's going to be looking like something like that, maybe in your grandkids or grandkids' kids' lives at best. That's how deep of a hole we were in. So again, high standards, and make sure your expectations are, again, not low expectations, not no expectations. That's not what I'm saying. But it's not just these things just aren't going to be saved, made new overnight. That's just magical thinking.
No, man. Well, like I said to Daniel, we could do a whole show on this. These are political. I'm confident that the president and his team are not unaware of this dilemma. The calculus comes. You only have so much political capital. How much do you have? You don't really know. Here's the thing about political capital. You never really know how much you have until you've exhausted it. Okay? You don't really know how much you have until you don't have any more. Donald Trump has more political capital than any human being alive in the United States right now. Either side of the aisle. Now, how much is that, though? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure they do. Do you have enough political capital that you could venture into primaries? How many of these people are in districts that are losable? And then how many that are, these Main Streeters are not? Do you have enough political capital to find quality candidates to replace say 30, 40 of them, so that the other 30 or 40 are put on blast that you got to come correct? I don't know. In our state, we saw our governor take out 4 people on a committee that were 4 incumbent Republican politicians in order to get school choice passed, and jaws dropped, mine included. Just don't typically see that. All right. That's 4, though. 4. And people had a conniption fit in our state when they saw 4 Republicans taken out by the governor in primaries. Is there the political capital juice to take out 40 Republican House members to make an example out of them? 20. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
At this point, I'd settle for 4. Just make 4 examples.
Fair. Is that enough? I don't know. Let's find out, right? All right, we're going to stick around and do overtime for Blaze TV subscribers. For the rest of you, we're back at it again tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Glenn Beck, right here on Blaze TV. Until then, Romans 8:28.